안 돼요. 빠져요.
쉴 때도 안 되겠구나.
아니 나는 거예요. 그냥 이렇게 하고 진행하시고 아니면 조금 옆으로 오셔서 진행하시고.
네, 있어요?
걷는 게 나을 것 같아요.
제가 신발을 바꿔 신을게요. 그냥 두셔야 돼. 신발 안 신었거든요.
아 그래요?
실 아니에요.
이게 실은 안 돼. 이게 흔들리지는 않는데, 예, 힐은 안 돼.
중계팀 한 번만 잡아주세요.
너무 이상해요.
너무 불편하시면 내려오셔도 돼요.
부서지는 소리가 나는데?
아니 너무 불편하시면 그냥 내려오셔도 돼요.
아니, 근데 그러니까 이게 저 카메라 때문에 그렇다는데.
아니면 옆으로 조금 나오셔가지고 내려오셔도
그러면 이걸 못 보잖아요.
저희가 아니 처음 시작을 좀 돌려드려요. 네. 일단 전달 좀 해주세요. 일단은 저희가 이렇게까지 띄워드린 거고요.
This is the first slide that you'll be starting
이게
with.
이제 그릴 거고.
I understand Korean.
이거는 넘기시면 되시고 이제 이거는 자유자재로 정식으로 그냥 들고만 이렇게
Okay. Okay.
뒤로 가시는 거.
All you
Okay.
have to do is press the green button.
자로 들고 이제 파일 이제 확인해 주시고 혹시나 잘못된 거 있으시면
If there's anything wrong with the slides, then just send him the original file. Check if there's anything wrong.
Only there's anything wrong by seeing the list. No. No, it's the right one.
Okay.
Because I know it's the right one because
네, 뭐 진행. 이제 이야기 되시면은 그때 바로 진행할게요.
May I have your attention, please? The discussion section 6 of the World Bio Summit 2022 will begin shortly. Could I ask everyone in the hall to take a seat and those still in the lobby to come into the hall? Please put on your name tags when entering the hall and do not forget to wear masks for everyone's safety. Simultaneous interpretation services will be provided. Channel 5 for English, Channel 6 for Korean. To avoid any disturbances to other attendees during the presentations, we appreciate if you refrain from making phone calls and please put your cell phones on silent mode once the session begins. We will soon begin the session 6. Please be seated. Thank you for your cooperation. Please come up on the stage.
누가 안 오신 거지? 누가 안 오신 거야? 아 그래요? 아니
We are waiting for one panelist. Just to please understand this situation. Thank you.
네, 네. 네, 네, 네. 아, 네, 네.
We will start shortly. Please be seated. Simultaneous interpretation services will be provided. Channel 5 for English, Channel 6 for Korean. We will soon begin the session 6. Please be seated. Thank you for your cooperation. Ladies and gentlemen, now we will start the discussion session 6. To kick off the session 6, I would like to invite Dr. Mariangela, the moderator of section 6. Dr. Mariangela is WHO's Assistant Director General for Access to Medicines and Health Products since 2017. She worked in the Brazilian public health system since 1982, and she played an active role in the decentralization of the national health system. She was the Brazilian director of the STD, HIV, and viral hepatitis department, and has also served on the boards of a number of organizations. Dr. Mariangela attended medical school in Brazil with degrees in pediatrics and public health and a MSc in mother and child health in the UK. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Mariangela.
Thank you very much. And let me thank the organizers because for a summit this complexity, we're only 15 minutes late. So it's, it's quite good. Let me welcome you to this session, but also a warm welcome to my fellow panelists here. We will have a range of experiences around this panel that go from the regulatory authorities to the standard setting to the industry. So I'm very, very happy to welcome you. Oh, I'm not going to read each of you's biography, and let me ask the public, if you want to read about each person who's speaking here, there's a speaker's biography here, which is very comprehensive. But as we only have 1 hour to go through this panel and these many speakers, I will first introduce Dr. Kyung Siu, who's the Director General of the National Institute of Food and Drug Safety Evaluation. Dr. Siu, you have 10 minutes, and this will be followed by 2 other presentations, and then we'll have discussions on this panel. Please, the floor is yours.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon.
안녕하세요.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am Kyungwon Seo from KIDS. Welcome all of you to World Bio Summit 2022. Today I'm going to talk about what we have experienced during the COVID-19 pandemic, and I'm going to introduce the programs we have carried out, and also will cover lessons we learned and strategies and projects that we came up with. The COVID-19 happened in January 2019. At that time, in April, MFDS launched Go Fast programs. Go Fast programs were about providing fast approval so that vaccines can be introduced and released in the market. And then from treatment development to vaccination development, we shift our focus. So we started projects to develop our own self-developed vaccines. There are 4 elements of Go Fast program. First is pre-consultation for guide, and second is clinical. As for clinical and non-clinical, we provided and created guidelines. And what is important is in the MFDS, we have many review functions, but we adjusted so that we created expedited review process. And last but not least, I believe this is the most important element. WHO and with IHR, we shared information to respond to the pandemic. As I mentioned before, other than Go Fast program, we started projects to develop vaccines on our own. Allow me to touch upon them. And about 80%, more than 80% of population were fully vaccinated. So we carried out our clinical trials not with the existing conventional models with control groups. So we try to measure neutralized antibodies to respond to variants. And at the same time, we created some guidelines for improved efficiency as well. And we, MFDS, created and adjusted systems for fast approval, and there are 6 elements in it. First, we created new divisions, including pre-submission consultation division, expedited review division, and emerging infectious disease vaccines division for tests. And also we improved and adjusted some legislation and made some amendments. Of course, we need to think about kits, sanitizers, masks, as well as vaccines and treatments. At that time, those items were under different acts, which causes inefficiency in operation. That is why we pronounced and enacted Special Act on Promotion of Development and Emergency Supply of Medical Products for Public Health Crisis, so that we are now able to manage and integrated medical supplies. So through such improvement in operation, we shortened periods for IND to 7 to 15 days and approval to 40 days and release of lots to 20 days. And we also streamlined some required data for approval. And also we gave some conditional approvals and we carried out conditional approvals and rolling reviews for expedited review process. And within a short period, we carried out reviews. So there were some questions regarding the completeness of reviews. So that's why we created a committee composed of experts. We created 3-step advisory review so that transparency and completeness are secured. And AE monitoring is very important, and we segregated the roles. First, kids monitor some side effects of treatments, and KCDC collects and investigates some AEs from vaccines, and those results are collected by MFDS for communications between the 3 agencies. With such efforts, Rakironazu was developed by Celltrion, and EMA gave approval to it last November. Pfizer, other than Pfizer and Moderna vaccines, 5 vaccines were developed and approved, and SK Bioscience developed its own vaccine for COVID-19. With such MFDS commitment, international cooperation is very important. To respond to common challenge, we shared information and we benchmarked good practices of other countries. That's how we were able to solve the crisis. And we joined ICH in 2016 and became a member of operating committee. And at the same time, we are carrying out many activities. And now we are leading some activities and projects in the organization. So with such lessons and experiences, we may be facing another future pandemics and crisis. So to prepare for such crisis, we developed many programs. First, a lot of R&D projects have been supported by Ministry of Science and ICT and Health and Welfare, and we need to ensure such development process can be translated into vaccination and concrete commercialization. And which direction we need to take should be also considered. And we are going to take turns with other agencies in carrying out many projects. And we reshuffled the existing organization structure. First, we created a new division called Innovative Product Development Support Department, and we created an integrated consultation for development division and evaluation for clinical trial division so that we can expedite and accelerate the process for approval. We developed new drugs, and MFDS wants to play a role in ensuring those vaccines are released into the overseas markets. So that's why we created a new division for global policy and strategy. First, regulation harmonization is a task of the organization. And second is customized support for importing countries. And third, creating communications and networks is another task of this newly established organization. So expedited review was already existing inside the MFDS, but we upgraded it. And it was limited to life-threatening diseases before, but we included new and disruptive innovative medicines into the review so that we can create a new program. It is called GIFT program. It is Global Innovative Products on Fast Track. And last but not least, in the field of bio and health, I guess we will have many opportunities, and we will see many supportive measures as well. But we do not have enough talented people, human resources. So MFDS wants to foster talented people for regulatory science. When we designated 8 universities, so that we are going to nurture 600 students majored in regulation and regulatory science. So those talented people are going to play an important and pivotal role in governmental agencies. So with this, I'd like to conclude my presentation. And one more comment. We were able to overcome the crisis successfully thanks to cooperation between government and businesses and between governmental agencies. With such collaboration, we have been able to respond to the COVID-19. In developing vaccines and treatments, I believe partnership will play a pivotal role going forward as well. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Dr. Su. You're very fast, and it was hard to follow the slides, but I think the slides will be available, and you ended before time even. But I'm sure we will have time at the end for some questions, but thank you so much. Can I ask my friend Mimi Darko, who is the Chief Executive Officer of the Food and Drug Authority in Ghana? And welcome, Mimi. I was worried because I hadn't seen you around, and I thought you had not arrived, but here you are. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. My presentation is to tell you about our experience towards attaining WHO maturity level 3 and some of our challenges. Thank you. Thank you. So WHO maturity level 3 is when a regulatory agency is said to be stable, well-functioning, and integrated in its regulatory systems. And it is not an easy task to achieve. So I'll tell you some of the challenges that we experienced. So I'll tell you about the National Regulatory Authority, why we decided to go for WHO global benchmarking, some of the activities that we had to go through, and what it means for us as a regulatory agency and what it means to some of the other African countries. This is Ghana FDA. We are self-funding. That means that we rely on our own funding, and government only pays our salaries. So we are not very rich. We are paid very little, and we have to rely on getting fees from the people that we regulate. I think that happens for most of the agencies. Our vision is to be a global center of excellence, even though we don't make a lot of money. And we exist to ensure that all the drugs that we regulate, all the food, all the medical devices are of the highest standards, of the highest quality, safety, and efficacy, and to protect the people of Ghana. And our core values are integrity, accountability, and teamwork. We regulate by registration, licensing of manufacturing facilities, safety of the regulated products, market surveillance, advertisement. We interestingly regulate tobacco and tobacco products, and we also inspect clinical trials and authorize clinical trials. And you see that we have a wide range of products that we regulate, including herbal medicines like yourselves, and including blood and blood products. So why did we go for global benchmarking? Because we wanted to strengthen our regulatory systems. We also wanted to become a center of excellence. we wanted to ensure that when there was another pandemic, we remembered the Ebola pandemic, and with every pandemic, a regulator becomes stronger. It is a challenge for a regulatory agency, but we take the opportunity to make ourselves stronger. And we wanted to ensure that our systems were acceptable within the region and also globally. So before we went through benchmarking, we decided to self-bench ourselves. And if you look at what we did when we did the first self-benchmarking, we were very excited. You see that when we did our self-benchmarking, there's maturity level 0 to maturity level 4. And when we benchmarked ourselves, we actually found out that with clinical trials, we were maturity level 4. With licensing, we were maturity level 4. With market authorization, we were maturity level 3. With vigilance, we were maturity level 4. That was very interesting, and we were very excited. Now, fast forward to when WHO came. When WHO came, you found out that where we thought we were maturity level 4, we ended up maturity level 2. And where we thought we were maturity level 3, we ended up being maturity level 1. It was very disappointing, but it was okay. We were happy to go down. And it was only actually with 1 where we were maturity level 4 that we found out that we were maturity level 3. So there were a lot of what we call sub-indicators that we had to still do. So if, for example, you had some sub-indicators like you had not got all your laws in place, even though you had some indicators that were maturity level 3, if you had 1 indicator that was maturity level 1, you fell down back to maturity level 1. It is a tough process, but it is worthwhile doing. So we had all the indicators in place. I remember for vigilance, there was one part where we didn't have enough staff doing a particular activity, and therefore we ended up at maturity level 3, maturity level 2 instead of maturity level 3. So we had to rearrange our staff and get our staff in order. So by the time we finished, at the first visit of WHO in 2019, we had 1 which was clinical trials that was maturity level 3, and 3 that were I think 5 that were maturity level 2, and all the rest that were maturity level 1. It was a bit of a disappointment, but it allowed us to get back into our system, to work harder, and by the time WHO came back in 2020, we had 3 of them, most of them be maturity level 3, and the most difficult ones were markets control and regulatory inspections that were still maturity level 2. The reason being that if you finished an activity and you did not close it up, so we do a market surveillance, if we didn't write a report at the end of it, you are back down to maturity level 2. So you can do an inspection. If you don't finish the report and close it up, you are maturity level 2. So when WHO finished with us, by the second visit, we had 29 indicators that were left for us to get to maturity level 3. And so they came back again during COVID. That was February 2020. And by the end of February 2020, in the middle of COVID, that was our prize. We became maturity level 3, and the agency was adjudged maturity level 3. It was tough, but it was worth it while, because at the end of that, we realized that everything that we wanted to do, all our systems were on track. Our pharmacovigilance at the time was maturity level 4, which meant that we were operating at an advanced level. Everything that we did, every step of pharmacovigilance, we had our reports in order. At the end of every report, our report was filed properly. I'll show you, I'll actually start from the roadmap. So we developed our communications with our clinics. We wrote our reports out. We filed our reports. We updated our SOP, standard operating procedures. Everything was in order. And we started in February 2020, and by April 2020, we were back to maturity level 3. So this is the sequence of events that led for us being maturity level 3, and it was quite an exciting process. It is not easy, but it is worthwhile doing. It gives you acceptability within the region, and we supported countries like Nigeria. Nigeria also supported us in our GDP and our license and our market surveillance to also become maturity level 3. What are the major recommendations from WHO? They helped us to be able to ensure that we collected and retained our fees. we had a strategic plan that we were not following, but it allowed us to ensure that if we have a strategic plan, you follow it. If you have an institutional development plan, you ensure that you follow your plan. I want to do this at the beginning of the year. Make sure that you follow it right from the beginning to the year. If you have documentation to follow, make sure that if you decide to have a management system in place, having a maturity level 3 allows you to have a plan and to follow it. You have documents and you have document control. If I start an inspection, I will start by saying, this is how I plan my inspection, this is how I execute my inspection, and this is how I finish off my inspection. It allows you to operate in a very strategic manner, and it allows you to be able to document everything that you do. And we have not regretted having become maturity level 3. It has allowed us to be able to teach other countries on how to do it. What were the major recommendations from WHO? Whenever we do an inspection, now we can actually put our inspections on our inspection portal. It allows us to have had a report online. So now if you go onto our website, you find all our inspectors are online, you find all our inspections are online. It allows us to be able to restructure. So now, if you go onto our website, you find out that when we do an inspection, when we do a report, you can actually now trace all our inspections and all our reports online. One of the things that this taught us was that you can use a risk-based approach to do everything. You don't have to do everything all at once. You do something, you have to think about what you do. Market surveillance, don't do everything. How are you going to manage your risks? If you have 1,000 products, children's medicines, adult medicines, how do you manage your risk? A regulator cannot do everything at once. So I decide that children's medicines are high risk, so I will do a risk-based approach for my market surveillance. That is how a regulator is supposed to think. And therefore, you use a risk-based approach. How are you going to do your training? Risk-based approach for everything that you do. So that is what being a maturity level 3 agency has taught us, that you implement a risk management program and you do it. It has also, what we also do is that because we are an ML3 country, we are also what we call a regional center of excellence, regulatory excellence, and we have a training program in place. We are designated as a regional center of regulatory excellence in clinical trials, in pharmacovigilance, and in medicines registration. And with that, we have offered training for several countries within the region. This strategy is to be able to support the African medicines regulatory harmonization, and we mentor several countries in training. With that, it has promoted confidence within the region, and we serve as a training hub for a lot of countries. We've trained countries like Rwanda, Senegal, Benin, Nigeria, and all the countries that you see. We are a regional training center, and we've trained, since 2007, we've trained a total of about 69 African countries in the area of clinical trials. We've trained about 193 countries in the area of pharmacovigilance, and we are training several more countries in the area of medicines registration. We have a laboratory that has just been pre-qualified by WHO, and it tests products for many other African countries. We have a special case where we have partnered with Rwanda, and we have an MOU with Rwanda where we are bringing Rwanda up to speed and bringing them up to maturity level 3. And we intend to do that with many other countries within the Africa region. This is we signed an MOU with Rwanda. We have one with Guinea, we have one with Gambia, and we have one with Sierra Leone and Liberia. So that is the impact of us being ML3 with the other African countries. And we intend to do that with as many countries as we can help, with the support of Nigeria, who is also ML3. And that is the impact too. We can bring all other countries with the help of WHO to ML3 as well. Our lab, as I said, is just recently pre-qualified, and it offers testing for other African countries, and we'll continue to do that to enable us rid the region of substandard and falsified medicines, to be able to bring and ensure that we can support and rid the country, or rid the region of as many SFs, and bring qualified medicines into, quality medicines into the region, and support the continent to ensure availability of quality and efficacious medical products. Here I have a list of collaborators, which include WHO, MHRA, EU, and of course, our local collaborators. Thank you very much, and thank you.
Thank you very much. Mimi will discuss a little bit later, but it's amazing how much work went behind becoming a maturity level 3, and also it's very interesting to see how it evolved in how the sharing between other countries, among countries, the experience, and this is it's leading the way to the African Medicines Agency. So thank you very much. Can I invite now Paul Gustafsson, who's the chairperson of the Pharmaceutical Inspection Cooperation Scheme, known as PICS. Many people know about PICS. Please, Paul, you have the floor.
Well, it's glad to realize that a lot of people know about PICS. I'm Paul Gustafsson, chairperson of the Pharmaceutical Inspection Cooperation Scheme. I want to extend a very warm welcome to everybody here and a warm thank you to the organizers of the World Bio Summit, the Ministry of Health and Welfare, and WHO for reaching out to me so I could talk to you today on the ways to enhance global cooperation between regulatory authorities around the world and international organizations through PICS to facilitate the supply of vaccines and key biologics. I want to start by talking to you a little bit about PICS, which is a Swiss-based association that is about bringing regulatory authorities together, an organization that enables regulatory partners the opportunities for global cooperation, networking, inspection reliance, and training, an organization that supports facilitating the supply of medicines. PICS is a legally non-binding, informal cooperative arrangement between regulatory authorities in the field of good manufacturing practice of medicinal products for human or veterinary use. For greater clarity, the GMP requirements that apply to industry are legally binding, but it is the membership of an agency in PICS that is legally non-binding. It all started in 1971 as the year for the coming into force of the 1970 Pharmaceutical Inspection Convention, founded by the European Free Trade Association, known as EFTA. Then, in 1993, there were 18 countries that were operating underneath this convention. At this time, the Maastricht Treaty, which was officially known as the Treaty on the European Union, came to be. After this, the European Commission was the only authority that could enter into trade agreements with other countries. And this created a barrier to the Pharmaceutical Inspection Convention due to the number of European countries within the framework. So there was some dialogue that occurred, trying to find a way forward. There was engagement with inspectorates and industry with consensus to try and operate underneath the convention, underneath a modified framework, one that could be more agile in nature. This resulted in the formation of the Pharmaceutical Inspection Cooperation Scheme in November of 1995. Just a few weeks ago, we celebrated a very important milestone of 50 years with both the convention and the scheme operating under PICS. We were a little bit delayed in our celebration due to the pandemic, but we celebrated 50 years to improving the quality of medications relied upon by patients around the world. Since 1995, PICS has seen significant growth, now with 54 participating authorities, 6 associated partners, 5 applicants, 2 pre-applicants, and 4 former pre-applicants. Partners of PICS include the European Commission, European Directorate for the Quality of Medicines and Healthcare, European Medicines Agency, United Nations International Children's Emergency Fund, or UNICEF, the World Health Organization, and the World Organization for Animal Health. Now, there's also many more partnerships that occur within PICS, and that's what we're here to talk about, is global cooperation. And so I want to tell you about a very, very exciting project that's underway right now. In cooperation with ICMRA, the International Coalition of Medicines Regulatory Authorities, ICH, and IPRP, we're engaging in a very ambitious project that's related to pharmaceutical quality knowledge management systems, PQKMS. This is a system that's designed to enable electronic storage of information relating to drug submissions and inspections. Just think about the global impact that this could have at the time of a pandemic, when there's the opportunity to provide a submission of a drug submission that supports treatment of patients in that pandemic situation that could be accessible to all agencies at the same point in time, with all agencies knowing that they have the same information available to them as every other agency. This could help expedite approvals, provide great international collaboration in assessing inspection information, and what I'm really excited about from the PICS perspective is the ability to share GMP compliance information, which is just so important to have knowledge shared about the manufacturing sites where the drugs are being made. This project will likely take a decade or so, but with its success, it will have tremendous global impact. ICMRA is leading this project, and I'll encourage you to visit the ICMIRA website where the reflection paper is published. So now's a good time to talk to you a little bit about the PICS accession process. In brief, there's two processes. First is a pre-accession process, which enables a self-assessment gap analysis to help an agency make sure that they're ready for a full membership application. This is a voluntary process that can last for up to 2 years, but a very highly important part of the process. Second is a formal accession process that involves an assessment visit to review procedures, quality systems, and the applicant's inspection approach through observed inspections. This can take up to 6 years, with the PICS committee deciding on membership. It is the formal accession process that's so important to note. A period of up to 6 years, a rigorous assessment process against 78 key indicators, observation of inspections. The connection that's made over the course of the 6-year period enables the opportunity to build trust and confidence in the applicant's processes. It enables inspection reliance once the applicant has completed the process and enters the PICS family as a member. PICS aims to harmonize inspection procedures worldwide by developing common standards in the field of GMP and by providing training opportunities to inspectors. It aims at facilitating cooperation and networking between competent authorities, regional and international organizations, thus increasing mutual confidence and mutual reliance. This is reflected on the updated vision statement that you can see on the screen, with our vision to enable one inspection per site that is fit for all regulatory authorities in the benefit of public health. Now, I want to take some time to talk to you about why this is so important. It's about inspection reliance. The concept of inspection reliance is key to PICS and a necessity for both regulatory agencies and industry around the world. No agency can do it alone. And imagine if we didn't have inspection reliance with every agency inspecting each and every site. The regulatory burden would become unimaginable. The importance of inspection reliance is something that we've all reflected upon over the last 2 years, something essential for us in times of a pandemic. The need to be able to rely on trusted partners is just so very important. I can remember a day back early in 2021, right in the middle of the pandemic, at a time when we were faced with significant barriers to international travel. My agency, Health Canada, was seeking GMP compliance information about a vaccine manufacturing facility in the Republic of Korea, a site of tremendous importance given the circumstances. Through our framework within PICS, we were able to reach out to the Ministry of Food and Drug Safety. They were able to share GMP compliance information about the site and update us on a current ongoing inspection. It was truly remarkable, and it helped enable a supply of vaccine from Korea. What made it so important was that this was an agency that we were able to, through the PICS process, demonstrate confidence and trust in their systems, and that we could defend a position to the Canadian public that we could rely on the site-specific GMP compliance information that was shared with us. I'll let you reflect on the significance of this. As we celebrated the 50th anniversary, PICS also updated its mission statement to state that PICS will strive to improve public health by leading development and implementation of inspection frameworks for human and veterinary medicines through harmonization of standards and offering world-class training to regulatory inspectors around the globe. Within the forum of PICS, it's able to deliver on a number of key goals. There's the development and promotion of harmonized standards. One of these is the standards, such as the revised Annex 1 for the manufacture of sterile products that was recently published in cooperation with the WHO and the EMA. There's also so much more. There's harmonized frameworks for inspectorates. These inspectorate requirements provide for baseline requirements for inspectorate quality systems that encourage harmonization in inspection approaches. With harmonized standards, there's also the need for harmonized application of these standards during inspection, where there is the key goal of PICS that's achieved in the training of GMP inspectors to ensure a common baseline framework for inspector skills. To help advance inspector training, PICS has been working on a web-based portal to deliver training to inspectors through a learning management system, or the PIA, PICS Inspectorates Academy. Although PICS has made significant efforts to advance this ambitious project, we continue to work on the financing that will support the IT backbone, resourcing for administration, and content development. There is also a need for checks and balances within PICS. If we want to have mutual reliance or mutual confidence, we need to be able to ensure that every member is maintaining the same baseline level. And we do this through assessments and reassessments on a continuous basis. This helps enable the sharing of information, networking with peers, and is a pillar to enabling mutual reliance. With all these elements coming together, harmonized standards, training, ongoing assessments, the forum in PICS opens the door to attract parties from around the world, not only members, but also partners, other international organizations, to come together in cooperation.
Can I ask you to wrap up?
I'm going to wrap up really quickly. This one's a very important one, and I'm just going to wrap it up so quickly that we have this PIA in place to facilitate inspector training. Right now, it's only open to PICS participating authorities, but we're planning to open it up to developing nations as well. Just think about the opportunities from that of vaccine and biologic supply when the inspectors from around the world are able to be trained to the same baseline approach. So, in summary, this is a forum that enables good regulatory cooperation with agencies around the world to come together, and this is how PICS supports the supply of vaccines and key biologics. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Paul. Very interesting. Later, I'd like to explore a little bit why does it take 6 years? It's a long time when you're after what we went through this year, 6 years is a long time. But we have 3 very interesting discussions now. Can I give the floor first to Dr. Jibril Fall, who's the director of the Quality Control Lab of Pharmaceutical Réglementation Agence in Senegal. You have the floor, Jibril.
Thank you much, Chairwoman. I'm happy and honored to participate at this important event. And first and foremost, apologize my bad and poor English. The context of my country is a web of supply chain for medicines and health products because 90% of products are imported. always in this context, it is a vision of head of state to develop the local pharmaceutical industry and make to Dakar a medical hub by the Senegal emergency plan. A Senegalese pharmaceutical market estimated at 150 billion francs CFA, about 230 euro. And the strategy of the launching the pharmaceutical industry is around 3 axes: updating of pharmaceutical taxes, creation of an incitative framework for investment and research in development around drugs derived from our medicinal plants. And in this context, an important workshop is organized, intense, called Lab Workshop. The events, especially COVID-19, have accelerated the design of a local pharmaceutical industry recovery program with a view to achieving a certain therapeutic sovereignty by 2035. And the main challenges identified are reforms concerning pharmaceutical regulation, because we had very obsolete law, pharmacy, the status of the regulation, the INR, not adapted it to fulfill the 9 regulatory functions. Even if you have a vaccine batch release system pre-qualified by the WHO, because the Pasteur Institute product the yellow fever vaccine since very long time. And the reinforcement with the evolution of the regulatory function from 6 to 9, where the self-assessment project with the GBT tools, which had been launched well before COVID-19. It is important to note that Institut Pasteur was distinguished sooner for the diagnostic of COVID-19, and, as I tell it, for the yellow fever vaccine production, which is pre-qualified by WHO. And the challenges was the curricula to meet the professions of the pharmaceutical industry, the national pharmacopy prospectus for the production of raw materials, and so on, and incitative measures, taxation as cost of energy, and so on. Structuring projects, strengthening the existing fabric, and creating new production units. The ANR self-assessment followed by a roadmap drawn up by WHO experts, made with the maturity upgraded emergency plan 3 identified during the lab. Operationalization plan of the RNA proposed during the lab, decreasing law, and so on. The proposal of the WHO with the CIP and the leadership of the direction of the ARP, which coordinates at the same time the governance system of the development of industry by a delivery unit. The emergency plan identified during the lab related to ANR ML3 project in order to be operational for the release of batches of COVID-19 because Institut Pasteur must produce some vaccine with COVID-19 and which intending to the products sooner. We have formed working groups around the 9 regulatory functions with all the experts, national and international. We have in the blank evaluation stage before the officially ones. Thank you much, Human, and
Thank you.
sorry for my bad
No.
English.
Much better than my French, I must say. And I'm sure most people here don't speak French either. So, and I would say much better than my Korean, but that's a no-brainer, right? So we have another speaker now, Liviette Dung. Thank you, is the Deputy Director General of the Drug Administration of Vietnam. Please, let's hear it.
Yes, dear the Chairwoman, and I'm going to speak about the Vietnam effort against the COVID-19 pandemic regulation cooperation. So ladies and gentlemen, the COVID-19 pandemic recorded its first case of COVID-19 on December 29, 2019. And from the beginning of 2020, Vietnam has experienced 4 waves of the epidemic, and the whole country has recorded more than 11 million cases of COVID-19 and over 43,000 deaths. So against the pandemic, for us, apart from persistent in prevention measures such as mask, distance, hygiene, diagnostics, vaccine and drug are key weapons to overcome the pandemic. However, the pharmaceutical regulation during the pandemic were really a barrier to access those. And we were rather successful with the zero COVID strategy in the first epidemic wave. But the second outbreak in May 2021 has led to 43,000 deaths due to late access of vaccine and drugs, and also due to the regulation barrier. So the whole healthcare system were almost overloaded. And in that case, the adjustment of legislation in the second half of 2021 has helped us solve the problem as well as overcome the pandemic. And the National Assembly issued the Resolution 30 in July, and the government issued the Resolution 86 in August 2021, allows the implementation of some measures about licensing, production, and procurement of drugs, vaccines, which have not yet regulated by law before. And the Ministry of Health also issued the Circular 11, giving detailed instructions for drug registration in the emergency situation. The Ministry of Health also issued the Circular 29, allowing drugs to be automatically renewed for 1 year So that has made a great contribution to ensure the drug supply. Especially at the end of 2021, the National Assembly has issued the Resolution 12, allowing the recognition of stringent regulatory authorities and WHO's approval to vaccines and biologics in emergency use. So that has speed up our vaccine importation. And the Vietnam Drug Administration issued more than 100 import licenses with more than 340 million doses of vaccine. Owing to that, we have quickly achieved a high rate of vaccination nationwide and have almost been a normal situation of life, even we have experienced the third and the fourth epidemic waves. So when we look back the last 2 years for lessons learned, among the most important keys of our success against COVID-19 pandemic are the tremendous support from international organizations such as WHO, COVAX, Gavi, UNICEF, and governments from Korea, Japan, USA, European countries, etc. for vaccine supply. And also the cooperation between regulatory authorities such as WHO, MFDS Korea, PMDA Japan, and Thai FDA, etc. for regulation, advisory, and vaccine information sharing, etc. So all have contributed to our timely access to vaccine. And derived from the WHO initiative on WHO-listed authorities in April 2022, it is necessary to establish mutual recognition agreement among countries based on a common technical standard system in vaccine biologics manufacturing. So that must be made in law in each country. And in Vietnam, it's the decision 43 in 2007, the government, by the government. So all pharmaceutical manufacturers in Vietnam must meet WHO GMP standard by 2010 and PICS GMP standard in 2015. So currently we have 230 WHO GMP compliant manufacturers, and among them 6 are vaccine and biologics manufacturers responsible for the whole vaccine use free for the national immunization program. And some of them achieve PICS and also EU GMP standard as they are drug exporters. And although we are behind the schedule, so we still interest in PICS harmonization. And the fact is that during the implementation of PICS harmonization, we have get some setback from both local enterprises and authority capacity. And the local enterprises have not been ready yet for investment in to upgrade their capacity to meet PICS standards because of low demand for drug export. Just only $200 million per year for export, over $7 billion for those domestic demands. So, and also the inspection system, our inspection system is limited by workforce. And these are the reasons why we expect from the World Bio Summit 2022 as an opportunity for expertise and experience sharing from PICS members in building capacity. And also we call for a global cooperation to improve the capacity of vaccine and biologics production as well as vaccine access in the low middle income countries like Vietnam. And let's think of WHO initiative as a mechanism of mutual recognition agreements to cooperate. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Dung, for sharing the experience in Vietnam, and I hope we can go back to to what we learned, actually, I would like the panels to each, if you could cite one thing that you would do differently if we had a big pandemic coming in the future. I'll ask you each to react afterward. One thing that you think you would do differently. Right? Now I have the pleasure to introduce Sally Cho, who's the head of Global RA in Clinical Development at SK Bioscience, but Sally has a mixed background because she used to be a regulator for a time. So now it's in the industry. Sally.
Thank you. This is a great privilege actually being part of this panel and such an important session. Just listening actually all the presentations and today's discussion, I see incredible achievements that actually has been achieved by all of us here. This COVID-19 pandemic, I've actually experienced from the US FDA side, not at the SK Bioscience. I think previous presenter actually mentioned about, talk about the pandemic, you talk about the vaccine approval, the development, and also device, the masks and glass vials, but actually it's not those only. All the symptoms that you see from this pandemic, that all the different therapeutic areas that were impacted by this pandemic, there was an incredible amount of effort and the work that had to be done from the regulatory agency as well as from the private sector to produce and supply those important medicinal products. The kind of a resource that the strain that I saw from the US FDA was actually incredible. The assessors who are actually reviewing these applications, they are working day and night on weekends. They also had to take care of their kids who actually couldn't go to school. They had to take care of their elderly parents and other, those who actually are not feeling well. The kind of the heroic efforts that I've seen from these individuals has been incredible. I'm sure that's not unique to the US FDA that I've seen, but I'm sure in Korea here, in the MFDS, as well as in all of the private sector. I know in SK Bioscience, there are a lot of heroes who actually have been working so hard to come up with a vaccine as soon as possible. Now, we hear a lot about the collaboration and cooperation throughout the yesterday's session and today's session. Definitely that's an obvious factor. However, I also think about the sustainability. We do collaborate and we came up with incredible achievements, but can we actually sustain all that throughout the next 2023, 24, 25? I already see the change of the conversation, even at the agency side. When actually the pandemic started, we were having daily meetings, weekly meetings, and talking to Department of Defense and importation and see how we can actually supply drugs all over the world and all over the different hospitals and all those. But now, as we actually enter into the endemic stage, those discussions and those efforts are going into the different stage, which is actually very reasonable. But in order for us to actually prepare for the next pandemic, are we actually going to be ready? And that's where we need actually a lot of help from the regulatory agencies, that agencies actually are coming up with a standard, the guidances and the standard practice that we can actually follow regardless of what part of the pandemic stage that we might be in. And of course, we heard so much, and we talked about the international global organizations such as WHO, the PICS today, and many other wonderful organizations, that they should continuously connect us together and giving us that advantage. I mean, talking to you today just briefly about the advantage that the one had by you connecting the information through the agency, that's just wonderful. Now, from the private sector, like SK Bioscience, we are working really hard to come up with additional new vaccines and new therapies to get ready for the next pandemic. And we have to come up with the innovation, the innovative way of doing it. So I think at the end, all these three different groups working together and just want to make sure that we do continue this and this lesson that we have learned, that this kind of a meeting doesn't end in 2022, but it continues in 23, 24, 25, so that when the next pandemic actually comes again, that we'll be truly ready. And we don't have to have so much of the heroic efforts and so much of sacrifice of those people. And this becomes actually more of our standard practice that we can be ready with. That's it. Thank you.
Excellent, Sally. And I was just talking to organizers, so we will continue the session until 20 after. No, but picking up on what Sally just said, I think around this panel we saw the issue, and we've been hearing through this summit and through other events that bring together manufacturers and bring together regulators and bring together policymakers in general about the need for us to have harmonized regulatory procedures in practice, real practice, right? And I think we had discussions today and in different panels as well about reliance and avoiding duplication, about international cooperation. International cooperation is not only between international organizations and countries, it's in between countries, right? And we're talking about south to south cooperation, we're talking north to south, and we're talking also south to north, right? Because we all learned that we need to do things differently during this pandemic. So I apologize to the plenary because we won't be able to hear your questions, and I suggest you come with the questions to the speakers bilaterally later on. But I'd like to hear from each of you, if there's one thing that you would do differently. Dr. Sil, let's start with you. Shall we start? Yes. If one thing you would do differently when a new pandemic comes up, if there's anything you would do different.
First, competent authorities are reviewing the same one drug, FDA, EMA, PMBA, and MFDA, MFDS Korea. But the review, it would be good to have a common review, or it would be good to share review results. Then we will be able to expedite the process so that we can have better results. And one thing I want to change is that a system for common review system, a system for common review between countries, that would be good to be established.
Excellent suggestion, thank you. Mimi, do you want to be next? Or? No?
I probably would say something. What I was about to say was, as a regulator, when the first pandemic hit, which was, I would say, H1N1, we realized that we didn't communicate as regulators, so we got left behind. So when Ebola came, we tried to communicate. And then we realized that we were not prepared. So when COVID came, we were very prepared as regulators, but then we realized that we did not have vaccines. So then I say to myself that I was prepared. So when COVID came, I was very prepared as a regulator. I mean, before the vaccines even came, I had done the evaluation. I was ready, waiting for the vaccines, but the vaccines did not come. So I had communicated, I had done all the evaluations, and I was sitting at the airport waiting for the first vaccines to come, and for over a month, I had no vaccines. So I had done my communication, I had done my evaluation, and I was sitting down waiting for vaccines. Then this afternoon, I heard that vaccines do not save lives, but it is vaccinations. So now I'm wondering which one it is. So I think that maybe what I would do differently is that between regulation, between industry, and between patients, there needs to be better collaboration between the three of us. We need to collaborate so that there needs to be some collaboration to ensure that we're talking about partnerships for manufacturing. So between industry and regulation, we need to ensure that the vaccines are available where they are supposed to be. And I need to play my role as a local regulator in a way that the vaccines will be available where they are supposed to be. And that is the only difference that I think I have to make, because I think I did it all for COVID and it didn't happen. And I don't know what else I can do. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. It's actually the vaccines and of our vaccination is, there's no vaccination without vaccines, right? So at the end of the day, that's what it is. But also you need vaccines in order to start the process. Okay, so we learned something, that we need to do better in equity. Timely access, not only equity, right? It has to be timely. Paul.
I'm actually going to build off of an earlier statement about common review. And so in terms of being able to manage things better as we move forward, that's one of the reasons why there's the initiative that ICMIR has advanced in partnership with other international organizations, including PICS, IPRP, and ICH, is designed to enable the common submission of one set of data electronically to be accessible by all agencies that are taking part in that project, to enable the opportunity for common review, to enable agencies to rely on reviews of others, and to be able to share that information and make sure that every agency is able to rely on the same data set and the same information. It's just such an exciting project in my mind. And from the GMP inspection side of things, being able to share that GMP compliance information for sites live. And in 10 years' time, we're going to have so many technological advances to be able to enable this sharing, potentially enabling on-the-fly translation so it can be used by any agency, to be able to integrate AI and machine learning into it. It's just an amazing project that will help us prepare for the next pandemic, and I believe it was driven by this current one as a need that we need to meet. Thank you.
It's an excellent point because we're discussing so much, and I think Dr. Silmer made a similar point on the sharing knowledge and know-how, and sharing knowledge also real time, right? What you do, yeah. Thank you. Jibril?
I'm waiting the question in French. In French?
Oh, si vous voulez, oui.
Non.
Je parle un petit peu, but I can relate to the plenary. I don't know if the colleagues here will. But you're doing well in English.
Solidarity is the word master. The word master all time. We must be as a body when you are fever, you don't sleep, and the world must be as a body by this solidarity and to work to and to work to take a disposition all the vaccine, all the product, because when someone is not in security, all the world is not in security. Thank you.
We all understood you very well. Thank you. And thank you for the effort with the English. Sally, let's go to you, and Leviette does the last word.
Well, you know, from the company side, if the regulatory agencies actually have the common the review template, that would be really wonderful. So that we can actually prepare one version and just be done with. That would be the best thing. But from the also, in addition to do that, probably we have to have that anticipation and preparation. You know, we hear about this 100-day vaccine availability. Talk about 6 months supply, the global supply. When I heard those numbers, I'm thinking, are they really possible? But then when you actually get into the more detail, it's all possible because we're going to be preparing much earlier and anticipate the future pandemics screen out all the candidates, and get ready so that when actual pandemic happens, we can truly take the action very quickly. So anticipation and preparation probably will be the key that we'll do differently next round, I hope.
Thank
Thanks.
you very much. Liviette, 1 minute.
Okay, in my opinion, for the next the pandemic, I think of reliant mechanism, and I also think about the common review system as because we are from the low middle income country, so we favor the WHO listed authorization initiative. Yeah, in April 2022, as the vaccine dossier have been reviewed by competent authority like EMA, US FDA, or WHO. So the low middle income countries so can based on that to quicker have approval so they can easier to get vaccine access. Yeah, so that's my my support to this idea. Right.
Thank you very much. With those wise words, we end this panel because we are starting the wrap-up session in 20 to 4 to 5. Well, in 10 minutes. So let me ask for a round of applause for these excellent panelists. Thank you so much.
Please note that there is going to be a group photo, so for speakers, please stay on the stage for a little bit longer. Thank you for your wonderful presentations and remarks. We're done with session 6 now. The wrap-up session is delayed by 10 minutes, so it will begin at 4:40 at Vista Hall in B2. Thank you.